You have to be careful about what is on your phone when you're coming through the airports. You can be deported, you can be denied entry, and you can be arrested. To the next level life hacks, where we take the next steps needed to grow towards our financial freedom and our success. Now imagine yourself coming through the airport and an immigration officer takes your phone and starts scrolling through your messages, your photographs, and your emails. Unrealistic? No, it is not. Uncommon? No, it is not. This has actually been happening for several years. It is nothing new. I am actually going to be reading you a case that happened several years ago, even before I started becoming more aware of the immigration issues and long before the current administration and its immigration crackdown. And I'm going to be reading this story for you. So on February 6, 2017, Anthony, and I'm not going to call his last name, a 45-year-old Jamaican national, was arrested at Orlando International Airport after U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers conducted a routine search of his smartphone. During this search, agents discovered videos depicting abuse, and you know what type of abuse, of young children. Anthony admitted to sharing these videos with individuals in Jamaica and claimed he believed he had deleted them prior to his travel to the United States. Following his arrest, Anthony was charged with transporting and possessing child pornography. Now, in July of 2017, he was found guilty by a federal judge, federal case, very serious. Subsequently, in October of that same 2017, he was sentenced to 5 years and 8 months in federal prison. Now, you might or might not be aware of several other stories that persons have been found out to have intentions that are not in keeping with their visitors' visas. For example, let's look at one as an intention to work. Individuals' phones have been searched, and for example, appointments have been found for them to be doing someone's hair for a date that they are supposed to be in the United States as a visitor. Another one is intention to marry. Now, individuals have been found with messages, whether in their WhatsApp or emails, that they have been communicating intention to send money or to have someone meet them so that they can get married to the individual. Intention to give birth while in the US. Coming here as a visitor, however, messages and emails and doctor's appointments are found on their phone with OBGYN doctors so that they can schedule for their follow-up visits or can schedule for giving birth. Now, if it is that these things are discovered on your phone, then it can lead to several consequences. Now, is there legal justification for this? Oh yes, there is. Because many persons argue that it is a breach of their Fourth Amendment right. And the Fourth Amendment really speaks to that searching of your person or your equipment or your possession really has to have probable cause or some amount of justification. But where the borders are concerned, this rule is drastically relaxed because there is the exception that is actually known as the Customs and Borders exception to the Fourth Amendment. Now, the Supreme Court has actually ruled that the government's interest in protecting sovereignty, including preventing illegal immigrants, contraband, or threats from entering into the country, actually outweighs the right of an individual for them not to be searched or for their rights not to be violated where the Fourth Amendment is concerned. So therefore, at the borders when coming through the airports, your right regarding the Fourth Amendment is significantly reduced. And yes, we know that there are some real-world implications. Let's look at some types of travelers. Let's look at a business traveler, for example, who has entered the United States after business meeting with clients and their devices are searched. Now, this can actually result in their clients' confidential information being disclosed to agents. Let's look as well at journalists. If a journalist has met with a source overseas and they are re-entering the United States, you will now realize that their source of information, confidential informants, their identity can actually be released or be disclosed to these agents. And what if it is information or a confidential informant that is actually releasing information against the state or against government officials? Do you realize the dilemma that exists right there? And let's look at us everyday citizens. Our confidential information, photographs, sometimes very revealing photographs of ourselves or our spouse, or information that we might be communicating through text messages can now be seen by these agents, and we might very well feel violated. Now, you know that I like to give you the statistics to justify my case. Now, the Electronic Frontier Foundation has actually released that in 2019, they saw a fourfold increase of searches of electronic devices happening at the border patrols. They have actually revealed that 40,000 searches have actually been conducted in 2019. So if it is drastically increasing each year, can you imagine from 2019 to now, especially now that there has been a heightened focus on immigration in this immigration crackdown? Now, what are my recommendations to you? My first recommendation is that you should be traveling with minimal data on your devices. If possible, leave your smartphones at home and walk with what is known as those bangers or those non-smart devices that only essential information is kept on it, like your contacts and so on, because by and large, if you are returning home into the United States, then your devices, your real devices then would be left at home, and you just travel with a manual device that you might need to make emergency calls for, just to be on the safe side. Also, I have heard of several attorneys who have stopped traveling with their smartphones entirely because you can imagine that their clients' information that they would disclose in confidence to their attorneys would be on these devices, and if found out, could expose their clients. My next recommendation is to use strong passwords, but however, bear in mind that if you refuse to disclose your passwords to the agents, then your device can be confiscated and you would have to go through some legal proceedings to regain possession of your devices. You can also know your rights, that you do have the right to refuse search of your devices, but then again, as I mentioned before, your device can be seized or confiscated and you would have to go through legal proceedings to regain possession of your device. And you do have the right, as I always mention, to seek legal counsel and legal advice. Remember, as I mentioned to you, right here on the screen, because I'm always saying that you can look in the description box. You might be too lazy, but just pause the video right here as I place on the screen for the consultancy agency that as a subscriber to this channel, you can get an up to 60-minute free consultation. So make use of these options and these resources that are available to you. And my last advice is that at the border, being a Karen or a Carl, as a matter of fact, will do you no good. And in other words, I mean that raising your voice, throwing a tantrum, and having an attitude with the agent will not do good for you. Remember that your rights are drastically reduced where it concerns you being at the border. So therefore, be calm, be humble, and you will find that the process will go much smoother, much faster, and you might have less ramifications and implications against you. Now, what are the implications for each type of traveler? Well, as you know, as a citizen, you must be allowed entry into the United States and actions will not be taken against you. However, if information is found on your device that can prove that you obtained your citizenship through fraudulent means, then as I mentioned to you before, then your citizenship can be revoked. Also, if it is that information is found that you are breaking the law, whether you are a citizen or not, you just cannot be deported, but you can face legal proceedings. As a legal permanent resident, you will be allowed entry into the United States. However, you may face deportation measures later on depending on what is found in your phone. And as a visitor to the United States, you can be denied entry, you can be arrested. It just depends on what is found on your phone, how you interact with the agent, whether you give them an attitude or not, if you're peaceful or not, and you can be put back on the next flight to your home country. In conclusion, yes, you have to be careful, as I mentioned before, what is on your phone. The agents do have the right to search your devices, your tablet, laptop, or your cell phone. So you need to be careful what is on your phone. And as a matter of fact, remember that even messages or emails that have been deleted can be retrieved and used against you. As usual, thank you for the privilege of your time. I appreciate you clicking on this video. If you know of anyone else that might benefit from this information, please share it with them. And as usual, see you in the next video.